Hello Targar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout, and today was my arm day. So in keeping with tradition, we start the workout with a heavy barbell movement, and technically I did that for both triceps and biceps. So I started with a close grip bench press. These actually got really hard near the end. This first set, it looked easy. I had a rep or two in reserve for sure. The last set, I had to kind of pause on the chest a couple seconds on each rep, trying to get the last little bit to get to the 12. So again, obviously this is a bit weaker than my close grip used to be when I only close grip, but I've been wide grip benching a long time. Also, again, for the record, because my arms probably need the most work, even though I'm cutting right now, my arms need the most work, so therefore I am continuing to do an arm day at this point. And I feel like I'm seeing a difference, particularly once I get a pump and I get further into the workout. Everything starts to look bigger. So again, I'm on the right track here. I would love to eventually put chest and triceps together and back and biceps. But for now, because I'm doing all this arm volume, it's nice to superset all of it. And it's also nice to have the arm day while they're lagging. Because again, the workouts are going to end up being longer if I do the other, because I won't be supersetting all the stuff. But until my arms get caught up a little bit better, I'm probably not going to do that. So we're very much going to keep this very arm dominant in my training. But it would probably really just become very shoulder dominant if I switch to the other, because I do have a shoulder day. So on the close grip pressing, a lot of it was touch and go. I do a little bit of pausing, particularly as we get near the end. But on a close grip, I'm not as worried about pause work, because it doesn't seem to matter in terms of carryover, because I'm not worried about chest as much. And even when I had my close grip at 365 as a max, a couple of years ago when I was only close gripping really, again, it didn't seem to matter. My performance didn't really vary on pause versus touch and go that much. It wasn't significant like it is on the wider grip bench. So what we're also doing on the barbell curls, we're keeping these as strict as possible. Forces me to use a much lighter weight. But again, I'm not worried about trying to turn my curl into a compound movement. Okay, why? Because on back day, I'm doing weighted chins, and I even do supine grip barbell rows. So that's one thing to point out here. My training is very, very bicep and shoulder dominant because of that. Because even my back day, 2 out of my 3 pulling movements are done with a supine grip, and even then I use a hammer grip for the dumbbells, which is still not full pronated. So it even has a little more bicep. So again, a lot of bicep work there. My pullovers are probably the only thing not using bicep on back day, on chest and back day. For the triceps, of course, we're going to have a little bit of bias towards trying to get this long head. So I don't do as much real pressing, just the close grip press. And if I end up putting triceps on chest day later, I'll obviously pull the close grip out, because it doesn't really have a place there. I'll just find another single joint movement to do to hammer that long head even harder. But even then, I have pullovers. I have pullovers on my chest and back day, which does work the long head. So really, because of the way I'm doing this, I technically have 2 arm days, because my chest and back day itself hits arms pretty hard. And so this is probably the only muscle that has a really, well, biceps and triceps, really the only muscles that have truly kind of 2 real days of very serious work, other than, again, glutes, I guess. But I need it right now. And I'm going to experiment with this. And of course, the other thing to consider, we could make the point that may interfere with recovery, because of the amounts of volumes I'm doing there on the chest and back day. I don't know, it could be an issue if my arms may not be recovered. So I might actually, if I go over to the other later, I might have better arm recovery. So that's something to think about too when we're doing this. Because again, we were so caught up, all of us, the evidence-based guys, into that short growth window with muscle protein synthesis. It turned out with more modern studies to not be true to the degree we thought it was. We could argue that just training the arms really hard on those days and then letting them recover could actually elicit more growth. I guess it's subject to debate. I guess what I'm going to continue to do is see how my arms personally do on this arm day. Because if nothing else, well, they are getting trained twice a week. Just, with compound movements one day and then mostly isolation on the other. Although, again, the close grip is of course a big compound. All right, for the second exercises, and we do four of each, right? 4 for each muscle, so 12 total sets. Second exercise, preacher curls. I picked up an extra rep here today. I've not been able to get 13. I got 13 on the first set. Normally it goes like 12, 10, 10 or something. I think it went like 13 and then 11 or 12 and then like 11. So I'm getting stronger here. Getting a little bit stronger. This is on a strict isolation movement, so I'll take that as a positive sign, even though it's a second exercise in the rotation. So pretty happy with that. Means I'm probably seeing some additional, some arm growth happening. If we're getting slightly stronger on our isolation work. Keeping in mind, of course, the scale is going down, so I am losing weight. Like I said, I'm back down. I'm at 218 now, and we'll continue to slowly work that down. But again, the whole point here, I'm trying to recomposition a little bit as I go, right? On a recomposition. And people will argue it's not possible, but we see plenty of studies in advanced athletes where it does occur. It's just slow. But again, the key is keep protein high. Recovery has to be perfect. Training has to be very dialed in. But as you guys can see looking at stuff, the waistline is still not as tight as it needs to be, but it is tightening up. So all that loose skin is getting a little bit tighter as I'm dropping body weight. And I'm again, that's going to be the name of the game. All right. What do we need at this point? Bigger arms, and I need my waistline to tighten up. Obviously, we train everything, but again, arms are getting a pretty high priority, and then delts are getting a pretty close second priority. Because my delts are getting a ton of work, right? Because we do all that pushing and pulling, and then my delts get 12 sets of direct work on shoulder day, not counting shrugs because it doesn't work delts. The skull crushers doing pretty good with that weight. I think I got like 13 or so on the first set, and I'm not sure if I've hit 13 before with this weight using this rotation as a second exercise. I'm not 100% sure. But I also did it though using that slightly harder form where I rock back a little bit at the bottom as it reaches the forehead. Again, making sure that long head is getting worked, which of course the final exercise we absolutely hammer the long head. Again, making sure we're hitting all this stuff from multiple angles. So as you guys can see here, obviously the barbell curl is just a big overall bicep exercise. The preacher curl does work the lower half more than the incline curl coming up works the upper half more. That's been verified in studies. You know, stuff we've always argued, you can't work different parts of the same muscle, but you can. Even when they have the same insertion point. This is what hypertrophy studies are showing with MRI, is that there is a slight bias. Things like upper and lower halves of the same muscle, even stuff like a bicep, right? The preacher curl and the incline curl both grow the upper versus lower in slightly different proportions. It's just that, yes, the whole thing grows. You can't isolate those areas, right? The whole thing grows, but there's a slight bias. So in my case, it's like, let's hit both angles then, right? Those are both fantastic movements that put a lot of stretch on the muscle. These actually put a lot of stretch on the muscle just because of the nature of it too. So we do a big compound, which is really a little bit more mid-range. This is a little more stretch. But then, of course, the incline ones coming up are a deep stretch. That is going to be very long head dominant. So again, we're kind of rotating through the closed grip, which is a little bit, it's going to be lateral head dominant. This is very balanced, hits the long head, lateral head, medial head pretty evenly. And then, of course, the incline, which I'm doing in place of behind the head because of my shoulder range of motion. It actually worked out perfect. I thought it would be worth trying, so I did it on that steep incline bench. I'm like, I'm already going to do incline curls, right? Already going to do incline curls. Let's just make it easy and superset it with that same angle. All right, the last set of preacher curls, these got hard. I think I got like 11, and then that was all I could do. I was hoping I'd get 12, but I think I failed. I think that was like rep 11 there. I went down, and it just stuck. Like, nope, stuck at the bottom. So, of course, we always replicate the other side based upon that. But I can't tell the strength difference. It's like when I do the left to failure, and then I go to the right, it's not like I feel like I could do 2 or 3 more reps. Just keeping in mind I have that old bicep injury, and part of my left bicep was removed. A little chunk was taken out. So there probably is less total muscle fibers there. But the strength is pretty proportionate, which has been interesting to note. I'm always going to tend to lead with it and let it determine failure just because of that, though. But I'm noticing as I'm doing this, it's not like I'm seeing a strength difference, so it's interesting. All right, doing these, the first set was a little awkward. I didn't do any warm-up. I said I knew I could do this weight for at least 10, so let me try it. It was a little awkward on the positioning for the first set. It looks a little slightly catawampus, so I had to kind of get in the groove of it. But then I picked up reps. I think I picked up an extra rep each set that I did before I kind of started reaching failure. And part of that's a novelty, because I've never done this movement, I don't think. I might have 20 years ago at some point. Or at some time. I used to like decline skull crushers, though. I just don't like my decline bench these days that much. Just making that note. All right, so we do that, and then we do incline curls. Maybe if I had a decline bench that I could hook my feet into, I would feel more confident with it. Again, having Meniere's disease, I don't like that. It's just being upside down, not cool. Incline curls, took all these sets to failure. I couldn't do 10 reps on the last set. I think I did like 10, and something like 8 on the third set. My biceps were done. And these sets are hard just because of the way the incline curl stretches. The very first rep feels like it's 1 or 2 reps from failure, right? It's kind of funny. It's just how it feels to me. So the only way I can judge intensity at all on that exercise is to just take it to failure. And I think this angle, though, shows I'm definitely getting leaner. The cutting is coming along. I think we can see the waistline's getting a little tighter there. It's obviously a long way to go. Obviously, I would love to take 3 or 4 more inches off of it and get all that skin tighter. Because again, for those unaware, that comes up, people do ask. I get people who ask, are like, did you lose a bunch of weight at one time? Even though I make videos on it all the time, they don't know. So I guess I should remind people I have lost over 100 pounds, and I've done it twice in my life. I should clarify that. I was really fat as a teen, late teen, right after high school. I got really fat, then I lost it, got into shape running, and then I picked up lifting later. And I've done whole videos explaining kind of my training history and whatever. We have all that. But then when I got sick in my early 30s and spent 10 months in bed, I gained like 100 pounds again. And so I re-lost it. Depression, people bringing me junk food, being 100% sedentary. I was extremely depressed, clinically depressed at that time. So again, I just almost ate myself to death. But pulled myself back out of it. And a couple years later started YouTube. You know what I mean? Keep moving forward, guys. Keep improving. All right, this last set was money, though. I think I got the most reps out of it because, again, I'm now getting used to the movement. Of course, I felt it on all of them. So I really got a fantastic pump and burned in that. I felt that long hit big time on this third set because I really got into my groove. Kind of paused that one there. Started pausing them, trying to just stretch that long head a little bit further. And I knew I didn't have another rep after that. This last set of incline curls, my biceps were done. I couldn't even get 10. Of course, this is set 9, and then of course I add another type of curl at the end. And I'm going to apologize for the final curl. The third set I did not record it. I came over and checked. I'm like, what the hell? It turned off after 1 second. So I looped my second set in twice. Just for the record, for anyone who's like, oh, you slipped that, swear that's the same footage. It is. I really did 3 sets, and the last set it was really good because I kind of did a little chest flex and everything at the end. I thought this would be my last set for the camera, and it didn't even record. It's like, all right. So I went ahead and did the band press downs with a heavier band. Why? Because I can't lock it out. I want this to jerk me back. Every time I try to get to lockout, I want it to fight back against me and jerk the eccentric. This is very much an eccentric-based exercise. I'm using it to build my tendons. I'm using it to get an overspeed stretch reflex, right? Overspeed, eccentric, and a stretch reflex on the tendon. I'm using that to get blood flow, get a pump at the end. Obviously, we want to pump the triceps up, but I'm using it to keep my tendons healthy because I am doing skull crushers. So I did 3 sets of it, supersetted with these. This choice, I was torn between this and just using a standing curl with the dumbbells. I already had loaded, but I unloaded them and said I already have this loaded from the extension, so let's just hit a completely different ankle. That closed grip easy bar Like, I feel like it hits my brachialis really hard. And so I went ahead and did that. And when I'm looking at the footage of that, it's like, oh man, all right, this split and the diet are starting to train off. Starting to pay off there. I'm getting tongue-tied because the way that I look when I'm doing those, I'm looking at that moment as I'm doing these curls with that closed grip. This is the most jacked I think I've ever looked in my life. I've been bigger, but with more body fat and stuff, but just in terms of just looking jacked up top, like right there. This is the most jacked I think I've ever looked at any point in my life. And I'm midway through doing what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to keep improving from here. But this tells me that what I'm doing is working. Now, granted, one of my friends has already said, look, dude, having a 630-pound deadlift, the muscle is starting to finally show as you're chiseling up a little bit. He goes, it's just showing how jacked you really have been. But I don't think it's fully that. I think it is the new training and what I'm doing with diet and all of it is really, really bringing it out. I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of shocked there, just to be honest with you guys. I didn't think I looked like this. And we're just going to keep getting better. This is motivation for me. This clip right here, this is motivation for me. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to look pretty decent. Let's see how much further we can go with this. Let's take it to the next level. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.